Dear friends, in this course, we are exploring different ways how to transform our negative emotions. And in today's class, I would like to bring up another aspect, and this is your attitude matters. So what do I want to say with this? Our attitude, which we have regarding different people, regarding different circumstances or events, is very important, and it actually influences how we experience and how we feel in different situations in our life. Because in psychology, the attitude actually consists of three categories. The first category is our belief about that person or event. So certain kind of knowledge that we have, or certain kind of a mental concept that we have about that person, event, circumstance. Then the next thing is the emotion, because this mental attitude, mental concept will produce a certain emotion, whether positive or negative. And the third, there is behavior. We start behaving accordingly to our feelings, and of course, accordingly to our mental beliefs. So what I would like to do now, I would like to present to you a very interesting story, which will illustrate how we actually can hurt ourselves and cause so much anger and grudges with our belief system, with our mental concepts, with our attitude, which is negative. So the story which I would like to tell you is the story about Princess Amba. This is a true story. It is from the ancient history, from the Mahabharata. So Princess Amba is one of the important characters in this great epic historical book. And she was a very beautiful princess, and she had also two sisters. They were Amba, Ambika, and Ambalika. And when they all grew up and they were ready for marriage, their father arranged a Swayamvara ceremony. And this is a ceremony in which a princess is allowed to choose a partner or husband by her own choice. So the king, father of the princess, he invited all the kings and princesses of the world to come and compete for the hands of his daughters. And among many other princes, there was also Bhisma. And Bhisma, for those who know about Mahabharata, is one of the most important characters in the Mahabharata. He was also a prince from Hastinapur, from a very, very powerful Kuru dynasty. And he actually came to get a wife, not for himself, but for his younger brother, who was becoming a king. And he liked actually those three princesses, he actually decided that he will get all three of them. Because in those days, the kings they did have more than one wife. They could have many wives. They were able to take care nicely of them. So what did he do? He decided that he will just kidnap all of them against their will. And this is actually a way that was allowed in those days among the princely order, Kshatriya, Kshatriyas they were called. So the prince could actually just kidnap his future wife, and that was allowed. So that is what Bhishma did. He just kidnapped, took all the three princesses, and he put them on the chariot. And then he said to the rest of the crowd, if anybody does not agree that I took them all, then come and fight me. And he was actually known as the most powerful warrior of his time, unconquerable. Nobody could conquer him. So he was very confident that nobody will be able to defeat him. But still, some princes tried. But of course, he killed some of them, and he wounded some of them, and the rest of them just ran away. So the only prince who was still fighting with him was King Shalba. Actually, he was not a prince, he was a king, Shalba. And Shalba was actually very attached to Amba. They actually really liked each other. And Amba was actually planning to choose him as her husband in this ceremony. But she didn't have the opportunity because Bhishma kidnapped her. So Shalba was trying to fight and get Amba back, but he was not successful. Bhishma wounded him and defeated him, and he had to give up. And then Amba protested. She said, I am not here. I am not willing to go with you and marry your brother Vichitravirya because I have already given my heart to King Shalba. You actually destroyed my life now when you have taken me. And Bhishma was concerned because this was actually a very important point in marriage system in the ancient Vedic civilization. Because if the girl has already given her heart to someone else, then it was not auspicious to try to marry her to another. And he actually took some advice from the elders, from the seniors, and they decided that it is best that he just sends her to King Shalva, who actually wanted to marry her before. So they did this, and Amba traveled in a nice chariot with entourage to King Shalva. But to her great disappointment, King Shalba rejected her. He said, I will not marry you now. You have been touched by another, and you're not fit anymore to be my wife. So in that ancient Vedic system, it was actually very important for a girl to not be touched by another man before being married, and especially for princess. And it often happens so that if the girl had any contact with another man before marriage, she could be then rejected and nobody would take her for wife. So this is what happened to Amba. King Shalva rejected her and she had nowhere to go. She could not go back home because she would just remain a spinster. She would stay alone her entire life in great disgrace. She could not go back to Hastinapur because she didn't want to marry Vichitravirya. But there was one other option. She could actually marry Bhishma. So she decided to go back and to not really, first request, but then later she demanded from Bhishma to marry her because he was actually the one who touched her hand when he pulled her on the chariot. But Bhishma could not marry her because he already took a vow of celibacy, lifelong celibacy. And he couldn't break it. And Amba was completely devastated. First she begged him, then she threatened him. And when she saw that he will not break his vow, then she left the palace. And then she went around and she was asking for help from other princes, other kings. But actually nobody dared to help her because they were all afraid of Bhishma because he was unconquerable. And she actually went to the sages and she begged help from them. And one of the sages told her, there is only one person who can help you, and this is Parashuram. He is the guru of Bhishma. He is able to conquer him. He is able to order him, and he can order him to marry you. So she went into the wilderness to look for Parashuram, and she was looking for him for quite some time, but finally she found him and she requested his help. And Parashuram felt very compassionate toward this young princess, and she decided to help her. So he actually called Bhishma and asked him to fight. So they had a duel. They were fighting each other. And Parashuram said that if I can actually conquer you, if I can defeat you, then you will either marry her or I will kill you. And they were fighting for many, many days. But Parashuram could not defeat Bhishma. At the end, they had to stop because their fight was getting so intense that the entire world was in danger, that they would destroy it with their celestial weapons. So at that time, Parashuram could understand that there was no fault in Bhishma. And this was the reason why he could not defeat him. And he just apologized to Amba that he cannot help her. So that time, Amba was completely devastated. And she just went to the forest and then she started to perform severe austerities, severe physical austerities. Like she would just stand in the river, like for 1 year, fast, just performing really, really great ascetic deeds. And finally, when she was performing these deeds, Lord Shiva appeared because she was trying to appease Lord Shiva. And when he came, he asked her, "What do you want?" And she said, "I want to kill Bhishma." And Lord Shiva was not happy with her request. And he said to her that this is not the right attitude which you have. This is not the right attitude. You are so vengeful. But if you will change in due course of time this attitude, you will be actually able to be the cause of his death. So indirectly, he did give her a blessing and fulfill her desire. So when she got this blessing, she was satisfied, and then she set up a big fire and she threw herself into this fire. And the fire of anger, the fire of revenge that was burning in her heart really manifested as this fire and engulfed her in flames. And the last words that she spoke were, "Bhishma, I will be the cause of your death." And so this was the end of her life as Amba. But the story does not end here, because she was born again. In her next birth, she was born as Shikandini, again a princess. And her father also actually desired to get a child who could kill Bhishma. So he was performing sacrifices, and then he got her as his daughter. And he actually also got the message about this child, that this child will be born as a daughter, but then will turn into a man and will be able to kill Bhishma. So what did he do? He started immediately to educate her as a boy, as a warrior. So actually, nobody knew that this baby was a girl, except for the queen. She knew, and the king. But the rest of the people didn't know, even in the palace, because she was even dressed as a boy. And he trained her in all martial arts. And she was becoming like a great warrior. And when she was old enough, he actually married her. But you know, to whom he married her? He married her to another princess. And when that princess found out that she's married to a girl, she became completely devastated, and she ran back to her father. And her father was extremely angry. Her father, a king, right? He was extremely angry, and he decided to attack the kingdom of Shikandini and her father because of this great insult. And at that point, Shikandini was becoming more and more distressed and depressed, and she didn't know what to do. Now she thought, now I am becoming a cause of destruction of my entire kingdom, because they found out that I'm a girl, and this king will destroy us all. He's much more powerful than our army. So she didn't know what to do. And so she just went to the forest. And again, she started to perform austerities. She had that kind of belief system, right, from her previous life, that austerity can fulfill her desires and help her. And of course, she also had another attitude. The main attitude in her mind was enmity, anger, and revenge that she felt towards Bhishma. And of course, also her father helped to give the fuel to this anger and revenge. So she was completely vengeful, and she only lived to kill Bhishma. But now it seemed to be almost impossible. So when she was doing her austerity in the forest, at one point, a very unusual personality appeared, and this was a yaksha. He looked like a human being, but he was not a human being. He was actually a being with great supernatural powers, mystical powers. And he asked her, "What is your problem, girl? What are you doing here? Why are you performing such severe austerities?" And she told him his story. And then he said, "I can help you. I have very strong powers. I can turn you into a boy, into a man. But this cannot be for your entire life, because I actually have to exchange my masculinity with your femininity. So I will become a lady and you can become a man. Is this all right for you?" She said, "Yes, it is all right." And then he said, "But only for some time. And then you will have to give me back. We will exchange again." And she said, "Yes, this will work." So they did the exchange, and Shikandini became a man. So she quickly returned to the palace, and just the right time, because the angry king, father of her wife, or maybe I should say his wife now, already entered the kingdom and was ready to start the war. But her father just went ahead and he requested him, "Please, please, let's not fight. There is no reason to fight. There is no reason to fight, because your daughter is married to a man. Just see, this is a man. Shikandi is a man." So he showed her Shikandi, and yes, really, also the king, the father of the wife of Shikandi, he could see that this is really a man now. So he was pacified, and everything seemed to be good. But of course, the life of Shikandi was still very dramatic, because the fire was burning. Those negative emotions of anger, hatred, revenge were burning in his heart. And he actually was able to keep his masculinity till the end of his life. And his desire was fulfilled. He was able to be the cause of the death of Bhishma. But of course, he also did not live much longer. He also did not survive that great battle at the Kurukshetra. He was also killed. So what is the lesson from this story? What can we learn for ourselves from this story about the attitudes? We can see the princess Amba had this attitude of wanting to punish the person whom she considered to be the cause of her suffering. And she was only concerned with her own happiness, her own selfish happiness. So these were some of her mental attitudes, her mental concepts that she had. Because she had that mental concept that Bhisma is the cause of her unfortunate situation, of her suffering, that she could not get married in that life. This is why she hated him. This is why she was so angry with him. This is why she was so vengeful. And this went to the extreme because she was cultivating these emotions. She was feeding these emotions. And what we could see from her story is that this did not end in one life, but those same emotions she carried into another life. That same anger and vengefulness. Not only her first life was destroyed completely, but she also destroyed her second life because there was not one happy moment in her second life. And that victory of success when she was actually able to be the cause of death of Bhisma was just like a short moment. And very soon after that, again, she was killed also. So we can learn from this story that negative attitudes produce negative emotions, negative behavior, and a lot of suffering for ourselves. But on the other hand, if we can do the change in our attitude, if we can change our attitude, then we can have the reverse. Instead of the negative emotion, the positive emotion can come, the positive behavior, and the suffering will be minimized and even extinguished. So what is the right attitude in a situation like Amba has experienced? The right attitude is forgiveness. And here I would like to give you just a little tip. Forgiveness is a very broad topic, and I'm planning to create a separate video just on forgiveness. And actually, I think I already even created one. You can find it on the YouTube channel, Bhakti Yoga Online. But just one point that I wanted to stress here regarding this attitude. And this is the first thing that makes an attitude what it is. And this is the mental concept. Our belief system, our mental concept. So her belief system, her mental concept was that Bhisma is guilty, that he is the cause for her distress and suffering. And this belief, this mental concept is wrong. She actually had a wrong mental concept. The real mental concept, or the real true in her circumstance and also in our circumstances is that the person who is the external cause of our pain or suffering is only the instrument of our own past karma, of our own past behavior and activities. So this person, it's not really the cause. The cause is our own behavior. Sometime in the past, maybe long time in the past, most probably in some of the previous lives. But the consequences have come now and caused us pain. So when we try to contemplate this mental concept, then cultivating the attitude of forgiveness becomes possible. And if you're interested more about the karma, then please check out the videos. There is a whole set of videos just on this topic of karma. So thank you very much for your attention. If you have any questions, please write in the comments.